Let's get to Ruggerfest. This past Saturday, the Fort Lauderdale Ruggerfest sort of came up from the ashes like a phoenix. Had 20 teams, including some real quality teams, which we'll talk a little bit about more in a minute. Went to a tens format. They sort of benefited a little bit from Savannah tournament getting canceled. Next month, some teams perhaps planning to play in that changed their plans at the last minute and decided to come down for Ruggerfest. And it was an awesome day. Weather was beautiful. We had some serious rugby out there on display. 20 teams, as I said, ended up with the Optimus team taking the title. Optimus, we'll get to them in a little bit. But let's talk to Nick Vickers, the organizer of the Fort Lauderdale Ruggerfest. Nick, good to see you. How are we feeling after Saturday? We recovered yet?
A little hoarse and a little tired, but on the whole, okay.
How did the tournament go from your eyes?
I mean, look, I think on the whole, we have to be over the moon with how it went. Like you alluded to before, things kind of fell in our favor somewhat with Savannah cancellation, but, and then we lucked out with some beautiful weather. But, really more than anything else, just a big thank you to everyone who contributed in many different ways to the tournament. Myself, obviously, running the show, so to speak, but, with having the support of Neil, who did an amazing job with all of our COVID protocols, which was not an easy thing to put together.
No, not at all.
He did a remarkable job in that respect. And obviously using Toby Lawrence and his years of experience, considering this was my first year running the tournament, was significant too. And then obviously just thank you to all the sponsors who contributed to the day. My own group, Associates MD Medical Group that I work for, they contributed the top prize of the $2,500, which, I think went a long way to attracting a lot of teams. And then, of course, Ross, listen, big shout out to you and your refs. Like, it seems cliche, but it's always true that, there is no game without referees. And I know how hard you work to put together a good squad of referees so, they could match the quality of the play at the tournament. And, frankly, I think the feedback from what you guys did was fantastic. So a big thank you to you as well.
No, cheers, Nick. Yeah, listen, as I said earlier, I appreciate the 9 guys that joined me out there. We had varying levels of referees, from guys that have just been refereeing for a year or two to guys like me that have been refereeing for over 10 years. Scott Duvall and Pat O'Donnell came over from the West Coast to help out in a pandemic situation where we are a little short. It was great to see the help, but obviously big thanks as well to the volunteers that I saw running the food tent, running the beer tent. We had a merchandise stand there. That guy came down from New Hampshire, I think he said, and drove down with all the merch. There was some amazing merchandise there. I'm somehow amazed I didn't spend more money at the merch tent. But yeah, no, a superb tournament. We will ignore the fact that one of the in goals, the posts were at the front, and the other end was the posts were at the back on field 1. I managed to not referee on that field, but it was an awesome day and capped off, by a superb performance by Optimus, which we'll get to in a second. Now, Nick, how the feedback was good about the tournament? I think from everybody involved, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it kind of, for me, it just, the whole day just seemed to go by so quick. It was a blur. Like, you plan for this for months and months and months, and then the day itself, you sort of blink and it's over. Yeah, no, look, I mean, any team that was coming from any state out of Florida, I think, was just over the moon to get out of the cold.
Yes.
Like teams from Green Bay, Illinois, Connecticut. I mean, just for them to come down and be in, I think eventually it was like 74 degrees on the day with a nice sort of light breeze and a bit of cloud cover. So you can't beat that. And I think everyone who watched the rugby could see there was some really good talent on display. I mean, you mentioned Optimus there, who ultimately won the tournament. I mean, I think when anyone kind of first set eyes on them, they were like, okay, hang on, these guys are going to be pretty tough to beat today. They have some real quality. I think that primarily based out of Georgia, but I think they pulled some guys from New Hampshire and, from all over the rest of the country who just wanted to play. So, clearly from the get-go, they were going to be tough to beat. But Green Bay, they came down, they put a great effort in on the finals, some real quality players. And then, probably the standout team from our Florida boys was Naples, who, they beat Life. I'm not sure how, with the games you mentioned, Life v. Lindenwood before, maybe they were stretching themselves a little thin. That being said, it's Life, so they're always rolling out a quality team. And then they beat the Stormers, who are a strong outfit too. So hats off to them. But ultimately, the Optimus guys, you could see they were a real quality outfit. So congratulations to them on winning the tournament.
Yeah, no, congratulations to Optimus. We'll talk to Marcus Satevu and Mark Diaz in a minute from Optimus. Great they could join us and talk about their relationship with the Hartford Harpooners. But let's looking forward. I know you only had a couple of days to think about it, but is this something you may think about doing in the future, Nick, and keeping it as a 10s event? I know it was originally 15s back in the day, and then it went sort of leaned old boys for a little while, but this 10s thing seems to be taking off. Obviously, with the World 10s in Bermuda this past fall/winter, was a great success. People watching it on TV, and is this something you may continue to do in the future? Go with the 10s route?
I mean, listen, it's one of these things. We're going to let the dust settle on everything for like a week or so first, and then we'll sit down. I mean, I like the concept. I played it in a few times in when I was back in high school. And I know it's obviously probably, a lot of people probably aren't too familiar with it. I mean, 7s and 15s obviously dominate, and, they're the more traditional concepts of the game. But, really when we were putting this together, we were like, okay, well, hang on. We the tournament, as you've alluded to, has had some ups and downs. And over the last few years, it's been somewhat of a struggle. So for me, when I agreed to take it over, it was like, okay, well, how do we differentiate ourselves? Like what can make us different? So, we highlighted a couple of things. I mean, like I said, the prize money was something that, we came up with pretty quickly. Like I said, we're fortunate enough that we have some good, connections in the business industry in Fort Lauderdale. So, we were able to garnish a decent amount of sponsorship. So when we're thinking, we just really want this headline. How are we going to capture people? What's going to make them look at us and our tournament over, say, a Savannah or something else? Now, ultimately, COVID put pay to almost every other tournament. But, that still doesn't change the fact that we needed to change the concept and, have something that would stand out. And then the prize money and then the switch to the 10s, I think ultimately helped us. So, what we need to do is not see this and sit here and just pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, what a great tournament. It's okay. That's step one. Now, how do we go to step 2, 3, 4, 5 over the next 5 years and really turn this thing into something that could be, in my mind, I have a vision of this that I'm probably not going to share now, but, just for a number of reasons. But,
right.
I see this as more of a 5-year plan as opposed to just, hey, we nailed one tournament. Let's not rest on our laurels like perhaps we've been guilty of in recent years, and really try to expand this tournament into something special.
Yeah, it's just going to be key, sort of finding that soft spot in the schedule, perhaps before Vegas. But the word of mouth, I'm sure, is going to get out from those visiting teams that came into town this past weekend, and I'm sure had a blast. I heard some stories. The first game I refereed was the Cobra Time guys. They had some great stories of their night before, and I'm sure a lot of the social boys had fun down here in South Florida, and will continue to do so in the next upcoming years. Well, Nick, congratulations on an awesome tournament. Charlie was going to give rankings. He likes to rank tournaments, and for those that don't know, the Uruguayans and the Argentinians like to drink this herbal tea that tastes like puddle water called mate. And Charlie we were going to give it how many? He's drinking it now, I'm sure. We were going to give it 4 out of 5 mates for this tournament. It was an awesome day. I think everybody had a blast. There was a slight blemish with a bit of a brawl in the plate final. Hopefully, I'm hearing that both of those two teams are going to take care of things internally, which I think is probably the right way. But 10s is fun. I reffed the final, and I had a blast refereeing 10s all day. It was the first time I've reffed it, I think, because we used to have the Sarasota 10s down here. That was a number of years ago before I started reffing, but this was my first time reffing 10s, and it's a nice little combination between the two.
And the turkey
15s
10s.
and 7s. The turkey 10s. I forgot about those, Charlie. Yeah.
Come on,
but no, hopefully this tournament continues to be a success and get back to how it used to be back in the 90s, no matter what the format. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. Appreciate it. And hopefully we can get Fort Lauderdale back in the swing of things as well.
That's the idea, buddy. That's the idea. Hey, and thank you to you both again, and congratulations on the podcast. You do wonderful things for rugby in this state, and listen, it's not unappreciated, so thank you.
Oh, cheers, Nick. We're just having fun, and we can't do it without you guys joining us, so I appreciate you taking the time out this evening.
See you, buddy.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Charlie. Bye.
Cheers, Nick.